Yay! We are finally here. Sorry for being late, guys. Welcome to Sunshine and Moonbeam, Journey to Crystal Brush 2014. And over to my left here, we have,
Mystics, what's going on, folks?
and we have over here to my right.
OasisRising. Hello.
Have you guys seen last week's episode? It is about finding your miniatures. Our special guest was Max Payne 390, and today's guest is actually Oasis. And we would like to thank a couple of people here. First of all, we had an amazing time with Kat today, right, Miss?
Yes,
We were at her pigment workshop today. And we would like to thank Clayton Tait today. Clayton Tait for actually designing us some more of his awesome logos again. And today's episode is actually about assembly, which is why I bring Michelle here. But before we start, some of you guys might not know Michelle yet. OasisRising on YouTube. So please, Michelle, explain or tell us about yourself.
Sure. I got into miniatures about 10 years ago, but I didn't really know anyone else who did it, so it was just kind of me in my basement. And then I took a hiatus over college and kind of came back to it every once in a while. And then in just the last year, I really got into it seriously as I finished school and started a YouTube channel about a year ago, and kind of it all took off from there. Ended up going to Adepticon and taking home a couple bronze crystal brushes, and that was sweet.
Well, if you guys don't know, she actually took 2 of the major categories of the crystal brushes, and I lost. So I tip my hat off to you, man. And she's getting more food, no? But anyways, today's show is actually about assembly, and before we actually or mystics actually start assembling something. There's a lot of things that people should know, especially for people who are new in the hobby. The whole reason this whole show started was because Mystics, who is actually a 6-month noob, put down the gauntlet over to Max Payne. That's why he was the first guest as well. And he wanted to win crystal brushes. And also we gotta give a couple of shout outs to the viewers right now, and we have Andy2D6, we have Courage and Honor, Darklight Studios, Isabel, Kat, Chung, Clayton Tait. We also have Derek or Oz from Cool Mini or Not. So, Miss.
Yeah. Hey guys.
Yes. Oz is watching. He's from Cool Mini or Not, and these are the guys that run Crystal Brush. So, and Mini Girl is also there. Mini Girl is one of the new co-hosts for Chung's new show, the community show on Sundays. Woohoo! Anyway, let's start the episode. This is episode 2, all about assembly. So I'm gonna assume that if you guys followed the shows from episode 1 weekly, you guys probably bought miniatures before or just got your miniatures, however you want to do it. And then as soon as you open the box, they're on sprues, and you're like, okay, what to do now? You have the shop probably. If you buy it online, then you probably didn't have any tools, but if you buy them at the GW store, they probably say like, "Oh, what about this tool set that we have that costs an arm and a leg?" And what kind of tools are needed? Let's start off with Mystics. You had some miniatures since last Christmas. Those are your first miniatures ever.
Mhm.
What kind of tools do you have right now as basics?
Well, my basic tools are wire cutters, X-Acto knife, toothbrush, fingernail file, and a pair of nail clippers, which I've dislocated.
Okay, just based off of your basic tools right now, can you explain to us sort of what you think each of them do? This is because I want to know, if you're new to the hobby, you see a tool, you can kind of figure out what they do, but some of us like me or Michelle might have different ideas that you can use those tools for.
All right, well, with the nail clippers and the wire cutters I've found so far is mostly sprue removal, cleaning off bits of excess sprue from the pieces themselves once they're off the main tree. The fingernail file I use for cleaning up any leftover that I can't get with either the nail clippers or the wire cutters themselves. And the toothbrush I use for cleaning up flash and anything else left over on the miniature before I actually get ready to prime it.
Like debris and stuff?
Yes.
All right, so Michelle, according to your experience, is Mystics correct, or is there any addition to what the tool you can use the tools for?
You can get by pretty well with just those tools. As a beginner, yeah, this will pretty get you by.
Yeah. Well, you already covered actually 3 of the most basic tool a new hobbyist should have, which is the X-Acto blade or the hobby knife. This is the ultimate, silent killer. It will make you bleed without even you noticing. Also, the wire cutter or the sprue cutter, whichever that you guys want to use. I actually have the, unfortunately, the GW gray box set, but that was a payment from a customer as commission payment, so I didn't buy it. And the next essential ones are actually your files to clean up excess mold lines, flash, and hairlines, or whichever else. Let's start going into the actual tools itself if you don't know how to use it. So I'm going to start off with Michelle, going with the sprue cutters. How do you actually use it? If you have some samples.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. So I just have a wire cutter here.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't get my other camera to show up, so that's unfortunate. But for example, you got your guys and your sprue. One thing that I've learned is not to cut too close to the model itself, because you can get tearing, and then you'll have a big hole in your model that you have to fill. So just clip it.
And then you can clean it later with the blades, right? Ah!
Kidding.
Get it.
Godzilla! Well, anyway, with the actual sprues, I mean the tools itself to cut, there's a couple of different options that you can have. The wire cutters are usually rounder on the edge, and the back isn't as flat as sprue cutters, right?
Right. So yeah, my cutting edge is actually a few millimeters.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see mine is actually flat flush, and then the tip is actually smaller, so you can reach certain areas. Which ones do you have, Miss?
I have the thicker wire cutters. One problem I do find with these is they're not as thin as the sprue cutters themselves, so getting to the harder reach places is a little bit of a hassle for me.
So, a couple of people might actually have different wire cutters or sprue cutters to actually fill that gap, because every tool is made for certain things. Let's get on with our second tool. This is another essential one, is the X-Acto blade, or the hobby knife, whichever you want to call it. I have the GW one. Michelle has the GW ones. I have the regular ones that I had before when I was still a college student.
Yeah, I do as well. Let's see.
This one is
my tool thing.
It works exactly the same way, but this one doesn't have the rubber grip. And being as dangerous as it is, I like the one that actually has a rubber grip.
Although I find the grip is too big and my hand starts to cramp.
The back part is a little too big for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I like how, and you're supposed to cut away from your from yourself. Well, recently, Michelle, you actually had a boo-boo, right? That was...
That wasn't with this.
That was with the big saw?
No. Well, actually, I did cut myself with my X-Acto blade just because I was, had it in my hand and I was talking and gesturing, and it was a bad idea to do that. No, I poked myself with this tool. It was on my fingers. Oh, sorry. Bike chain or something. This tool, I was trying to open up my glue bottle and stupidly was holding the glue bottle. I don't even... Here it is.
Yeah,
Like
just
this.
be very careful with X-Acto blades because They are really, really sharp. Oh, whoa.
Basically, any tool in general, if it's sharp, do not have any pressure towards your fingers or any
Yes.
parts of you.
And
So,
especially, if your kids are actually handling these and they're like not even in their teens yet, make sure that you're actually supervising them. I mean, it is a good thing to let them use the tools themselves to practice, but make sure you're doing all the safety precautions, like teaching them how to cut it away from your body, away from yourself. Again, these blades are really, really sharp. You don't even realize they cut you until you go take a shower, or suddenly you feel like stinging pain in in your fingers, and you see blood coming out. I did that
like, it
so
can
many
be
times.
really easy out of habit, cutting vegetables or something to cut towards your fingers like this, which
Yeah,
is a really bad idea.
you're making me nervous. Stop that. And then we also have our third essential item, which is files or sandpaper or the emery boards. I prefer the metal files, and they come in very different shapes and length. I have the flat one, the round one, and the triangle one. I don't actually know how it, like the name of it. I just call them metal files. Michelle has like a whole different collection of them.
I have a whole set.
And yeah, and Miss, I understand that you use a nail file. Can you show them to the audience?
Yeah, I just use the standard cheap drugstore nail file you usually get
How
for
how
your.
is that actually working out for you?
I find it works well because it's not coarse; it's a very fine grain to it.
Uh huh.
So it may take a little bit longer to get to like a little bit thicker pieces, but you won't go too far into or damage the model itself.
The best part of it is only $1, right?
Yes, you can get a package of 20 of these for $2, $3, if that.
Is there any different grit?
Not that I know of, but it does have a front and the back, and they have two different fills to it. So it actually does
Okay.
have two different grits on both sides.
Yeah, because the reason I mentioned grit, Michelle actually showed us her collection of sandpaper, and they're all
Yeah,
different
so
varieties. You can start off, cleaning off mold lines with
this is
the most coarse all the way to the smoothest to make sure that your miniature is back being smooth.
very smooth.
And since I covered the three most basic tools that you need if you're a new hobbyist, let's see if we have anything on the chat or the comment. I'm checking the comments actually. Miss, do you have anything from the chat?
On the chat,
We have a live chat.
Clayton Tait says, I find the big knives, full-size box cutters much safer. The smaller X-Acto blades can shatter and jump into your eyeball.
Oh, yes. I had that before. And Isabel is mentioning that wire cutters do not cut flash.
No.
It doesn't. You have to clean it up with the X-Acto blade.
Yep.
And Chung said that he actually uses the emery boards. I use it sometimes to get into like smaller detail. It's smoother. It's basically like a sandpaper placed onto a stick. It's the same thing. Isabel, buy a set of diamond files. You'll never need another set. They're not even that expensive. Uh,
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna pick up next, I think.
do you know how much it is?
Probably 10 or 15 bucks.
That
If
is,
I
and
remember.
for a set of like what, 5, 10?
Probably the same amount.
Yeah, that's not expensive at all. Well, those are the three main tools, and I appreciate the audience are actually giving out inputs on those three tools. And then let's start off with the other tools that most people, like some people, like if you're more experienced, you actually have them because again, every tool is serving different purposes. The next important one, I guess these are the next tier of important tools that we use as a hobbyist. One of mine is the pin vise and the drill bit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of different options. The GW ones that I have over here and Michelle over there, they actually come with only one drill bit set, which is a
Only
1
one
over
size, yeah.
1/16th or 1/32, I forgot, but it will fit a paper clip. But sometimes you have models that you want to pin onto, like the base, for example, their feet are so tiny. This is very true when it comes to Malifaux models, the new plastic models. So I understand that you have some Malifaux models, right, Mystics?
Yes.
You're gonna have fun pinning them. It's one of those models that's like the feet are so small. So Michelle,
Like this.
in terms of yeah, like that one is actually hanging in the air and you don't know how to pin them.
And he's
Um,
supposed to be attached to the base by his feet.
yes, and the feet is actually like this. So Michelle, do you have any fun stories regarding pinning or anything?
Sure.
Or like regarding pinning?
Yeah, we'll start with this one. This guy, his sword is pinned on at the smallest joint there, if it'll focus. I could show you my other camera. But it's basically just big enough to fit the pin vise.
Yeah, because the sword itself is probably about 2 millimeters thick or something, right?
Yeah. So right at that smallest spot is where there's a pin. So, because as I was painting it, it broke off because I kept, holding it by the sword like that. It just snapped off. So
Now, the pin vise, while as not as dangerous as the X-Acto blade, and you can actually feel it when it stabs you, it still hurts when it stabs you. So when you're, drilling, go ahead, Michelle.
well, some people you might need to pin metal models, and drilling by hand will take a long time. So you can get a regular drill and put this drill bit in it. But if you do that, be sure to wear safety glasses because little
bits
metal
will
bits
fly.
will fly everywhere.
Also use a clamp. This actually came in the box.
Mm-hmm.
This actually sticks like with suction cup onto your desk, and then use the clamp to actually hold your models. And it's actually rubberized on the teeth, I guess. So you're not actually removing details off of your models. I didn't show this yesterday on the dry run, so that's why probably Mystic's like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, that would be useful to have.
Yeah, you can use drill, like home improvement drill, or you can use a Dremel. Just make sure you're careful because it happened to me before. I was just drilling it and it slipped and went straight to my finger. So as any tool, it is dangerous. If you want to research on the drill bits, Mystics, you can go to like Home Depot, whatever. You can see the different sizes, or actually, it's better to actually go to a hobby store and check the different sizes, so you know what kind of pins that you need. Usually, they also sell the pin vices for them. A funny story that at Adepticon from Vanhammer, actually, for over 30 years, he's been converting miniatures. He never had a pin vise. He only had the drill bit. So he's been rolling his drill bit with his fingers just like this, and he developed a certain callus on his fingers. But now he bought it at Adepticon, and he's really happy with it. So, it is one of the essential tools that you use because pinning actually helps. If you guys are too lazy, if you guys are new and you guys like, I don't want to pin this, pinning actually works better with metal miniatures because metal parts are heavier than plastic, obviously. And sometimes, your super glue is not holding it correctly. And so let's say someone has a big ass sword over here and it's chopped off right here and you want to pin them, and the pin vise is the best tool to do that. And let's move on into the next one.
Are you paying attention to the chat, Mario?
No.
Black Blade. If you want,
we're getting a little crap for or flack, I should say, for our GW pin vices.
Hey, I didn't pay for it, so leave me alone.
And I needed one, and that's all my store had.
Yeah,
so.
I painted one model to get that whole box, so there you go.
Black Blade. To answer your question, do a quick Google search for a hobby vise, and you'll probably find what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
there you go.
A couple of shout-outs then. Black Blade, Captain Butthole. I can actually say that in our show. JRiv193, and we actually have Eric in in the chat line, Gonzo9, he actually doesn't watch any of our shows, and today he actually is. So I'm very proud of that. Isabel mentioned that use lubricant on the drill bit. A little oil makes drilling easier. Yes, thank you. She's like the master of all tools, I think. Gamer on a budget. Okay, the next tool that I'm going to introduce, I don't know if Michelle has this. This is not essential, but I grew to like it. This is the flash remover from GW. Yes, another GW tool.
So much GW.
We'll explain a little bit more on the lingo, like flash, hairline, or mold line. But this is kind of like the X-Acto knife, but it's not sharp. But it will remove your mold lines. It will smooth it out, and then after that, you use your sandpaper, emery board, whichever. GW sells it for like $10. I don't think it's worth it for $10. But Michelle actually has an idea. Instead of using the flash remover, she uses what was the tool?
I just use the blunt side of the X-Acto knife, which I mean, getting the mold line remover I think is good if you don't feel comfortable handling a knife like this, because when you're removing flash, your thumb is closer to the blade itself. So you just have to be careful and mindful of what it's doing.
Well, Andy 2D6 is doing whatever he can to get me off my train of thoughts. Thank you. All right, so let's move on into our next tool. Tweezers. Yes, they can remove your own body hair, but sometimes. Well, Michelle's actually using a giant metal pliers.
Yeah, I don't have a set of hobby tweezers. Actually, it might somewhere. I don't know. But
these are good for picking up and assembling little parts, like some of the Malifaux models, the new plastic ones. Their parts are really, really tiny. I can name a few. Vanessa's right hand is very tiny. Yanlo's beard is really tiny. You have a Dark Dead box. The girl that has the tongue out, that part is really tiny. I use tweezers to actually hold them.
The tongue is separate?
Yes, the tongue is separate. And then there's a model that looks like this. The arm is already out, but the wrist to the hand is actually separate. And it has a slot to enter it. It's retarded.
Well, at least it has a slot.
It actually makes it harder with the slot. Because it's not like your hand is open like this and then the slot goes inside it. It's actually on the side like a square, and you have to slot it like this. But
Captain Marvel, you use these to pluck your nose hairs? That's the big list.
But I actually use the tweezers also. I have the flathead ones like this. These are for my flock or grass tuft that I want to put on my base. And you can use this as household tweezer. You can use craft tools, whatever. I bought a whole set for like $2 at Michael's, so it is really cheap. It's not essential, but it helps.
Yeah, the only thing you want to be careful of with these sorts of pliers is that they have teeth. So if you're using it to hold minis, you have to be careful it doesn't actually make marks.
Yeah, it'll destroy your details. Mystics actually has a good idea during our dry run yesterday. Mist?
If you have needle nose pliers like that, you don't want to hurt the model. If you have duct tape, just wrap it around the edges on each side and it acts like a grip, and it won't damage the model at all.
Duct tape is a problem solver for everything. Mystics actually mentioned something on the chat line that I completely forgot because it was so obvious. Glue. We can't assemble without glue.
Yeah, I forgot to talk about that.
Yes, we didn't even do it during the dry run yesterday. I used Loctite super glue for metal parts, and I used plastic cement from... Where is my plastic cement? This is how prepared we are because we didn't even talk about it yesterday.
Danger!
That looks safe.
Yeah, this is the plastic cement. Mine's all dried up. I need more.
This is my plastic cement from Plastruck. the maker of a lot of different architect miniature stuff.
Yes.
They're actually local to me, about 10 minutes away, so that's really awesome. I can just pick it up anytime.
This is the one shame in my toolbox. I actually got this.
Now, see, that's even worse than a GW toolbox. $9 for that much.
Okay, and let me show you the proper way to unclog your glue. Not like this.
Which is what I do.
Stab yourself. Van Hammer showed me take your sprue cutter and just snip the excess glue around the edge, and it should clear it up. And you can see then where the hole is, so you can unclog it.
Yeah, we completely forgot about glue. That is one of the essential ones. Metal models are a little bit harder to glue together because they are heavier. Some glue does not stick to the metal. Gorilla Glue is good. Your screen is flipped. I can't read that.
Oh, just Zap a Gap.
Zap a Gap, that will work as well.
This is great for terrain. This is
the PVA. The PVA glues are good. Gorilla Glues are good.
This is the stuff you have to get wet. You have to get both surfaces wet, and then it foams out. So it's not good for minis, but great for other stuff.
Yeah, Elmer's white glue or the Elmer's wood glue is good for terrain, like, you know, when you want to add sand or flock or whichever. And you can find them cheap at like Home Depot or Michael's or whichever area that you're from. I don't know the names of those kind of stores in UK. Next, we mentioned the sandpaper, which is the same as the metal files. The next one that we have is green stuff. I don't have any samples right now. Mystics actually did the mistake of thinking that he got the wrong item because he got 2 things instead of 1. It's like, how come the green stuff is in blue and yellow?
No,
they sold it
mentioned
separately?
that about the ribbon.
That's weird.
No. He
came in a set.
It came in a set, but he was like, "Oh, I think I bought the wrong thing because it's not green."
Oh.
So that is probably one of the early novice mistakes, because the blue and yellow actually makes green when you mix it up. But anyway, the green stuff is actually Michelle. Can you explain that a little bit on what the green stuff is for?
Sure. You can use it for filling gaps or sculpting new parts. I've used it on my dragon to fill in the gaps here where I put the pieces back together and sculpt it on some scales. I don't have any other unpainted things that have green stuff on them, but it's kind of neat because you can use sculpting tools to manipulate it. I'm certainly no expert on it. I'm really just kind of flying by the seat of my pants through all this stuff.
Which brings us to the next tool later on after we finish with the green stuff.
Sure. Another note about green stuff is that if you mix it 50-50, it's kind of rubbery when it dries or when it cures. This is cured green stuff, just a glob I had left over. So if you want something more sturdy, if you're doing something bigger, you want to use gray stuff. This will cure harder, and you can actually file it down easier. And green stuff tends to gunk up my files.
Yes, they do, and it's really hard to clean green stuff off of files. And if you guys want to follow Michelle's project log, it's on her channel. The dragon is on day 8 or 9.
Dragon.
Yes, she's actually chopping up a dragon and trying to, I guess I wouldn't say convert it. She's just trying to reconstruct a dragon so it would hug a tower, right?
I suppose repositioning is converting.
Yeah. In that kind of sense, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But the next tool that was mentioned is actually the sculpting tool. This is used when you're converting stuff or you're filling up gaps. This is the tool for you to work with Sculpey. If you don't have this,
silicone-tipped tools. These are just cheapo ones. These are great because then you can get really soft manipulation of it. When you use the metal tools, it leaves hard edges and can be harder to make a smooth finish.
Miss, if you don't have these, you can actually use toothpicks. Make sure that the tool is always wet or the green stuff is wet when you're, doing it.
And
Because
actually, Mini Girl posted in her latest stencil video using Vaseline.
okay, that keeps it moist all the time. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea. Thank you. See, we're actually mentioning a lot more stuff than the dry run yesterday. This is awesome.
I'm sure we're forgetting stuff too that we mentioned.
Yeah, but more details we're gonna have at season 2 when we actually talk about green stuffing your miniatures, because I want Mystics, or we as a community wanted Mystics to learn from the basics. Like if you're learning Kung Fu, you got to know how to do the stance for like 3 months.
So we shouldn't talk about green stuff without mentioning the liquid green stuff, which is
yes.
kind of funky to use. But what I found it's good for is filling in small gaps, like the front of this eagle head.
Yep.
Stuff there that would be more difficult to fit.
Because when you have miniatures that's stuck like that, you can usually see the middle gap.
Mm-hmm. But for doing bigger gaps, like the gaps between the legs, I would use regular green stuff.
Yeah, Mystics actually asked us yesterday what's the good use of a liquid green stuff. What do we think about it? Yesterday we answered it that it is good for smaller gaps, but it's not good for larger gaps. But I also find it that with the liquid green stuff, not only that it destroys your brush, it's also dries off really, really chalky, and you ended up having to clean it more. You have to clean up more than actually using the actual green stuff. I'm reading off the chat at the same time. That's why I'm like not concentrating right now.
Yeah, one thing we didn't talk about yesterday was actually washing your models. Especially if you use Vaseline for your green stuff. You want to wash it off before you try starting to paint.
Because paint is not going to stick to that.
Yeah, metal models and resin and even plastic have a mold release agent that's almost powdery.
Just wash it off with water, and I use Dawn for it.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question for you, Mario. Do you wash your models before you assemble them or after you're done assembling?
I actually wash them when I do wash them, because I don't usually wash my models. When I do wash them, I wash them off on the sprue before I assemble.
Put them in some soapy water.
Yeah, because it's easier for me to hold instead of having one part that actually dumped into the sink and then like you lose it, because I like.
Yeah, that's got to be difficult for the Malifaux models. That might be a case where you'd want to assemble it first.
Yep.
Although I could imagine that the glue would stick better if you washed it first.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, especially with the metal models.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mario, if you're worried about losing your miniatures in the sink like that, just get a strainer, one of those wire strainers. They come in different sizes, and stick your models in there.
Yeah, that will work. But again, I usually do not wash my models. So when I actually do it, speaking of cleaning up your models, Awesome Paint Job Les actually is filming a tutorial on how to polish your metal models before you actually paint them. Some of his pictures, if you guys are already subbed to him on Facebook, some of the pictures are already up, and that thing looks cleaner than some of the chrome parts in my car. It looks so good, so look forward for that. Thank you, Les, for actually going to show us how to do it. He has a tutorial coming up.
So, Kat makes a good point in the chat that after you're handling the models, putting them together, you should wash them again, or at least wash them right before you stop painting, because your finger oils will get on the model.
Yep. By the way, thank you, Mystics, for setting up this new chat, because
This is awesome.
Live.
Yeah.
It's live, and you're actually learning from people on the chat right now instead of just learning from us too.
Yeah, because I'm no expert on any of this. I don't know what I'm doing. I will say that right now.
Yeah, no, the guests are not supposed to be experts. The guests are supposed to be people who've been in the hobby a little bit longer than Mystics and share experience. Oh, you give her an OP and not me? Okay, thanks, Miss.
Okay. Okay, there, just for that, Mario. Oh.
Oh, Captain Butthole actually. Oh wait, Captain Butthole might be less.
That is less.
Yes, Captain Butthole. Less is Captain Butthole.
Okay. He has a picture up over there if you guys want to look at it. But anyway, the next tool that I have is actually a brush. This is a GW one, part of the toolbox set. Mystics already has a toothbrush. This is for cleaning off debris from your model after you assemble them, because obviously after you drill them, after you glue them, a lot of debris and dust would actually stick to it. And as any hobbyist or any wargamer do, we always just hoard models, and we usually leave them like on our cabinets or whatever. Yeah, it gets really dusty, and you don't want to paint straight after when it's dusty like that. You want to clean them off first. I also use the toothbrush to strip paint off of my models after I dump them into what's that thing called? Dawn or
Simple green.
Simple green. That's the word for it.
Simple green smells funny.
It smells clean. Before we move on to the next segment, let's check out on comments. Good that no one is actually commenting on YouTube anymore, because we want to use the chat system.
Mario, is there a way we could keep up a chat window that's in the live stream so people can see it back live? Well, we'll talk about it.
Mystics is a techie for that.
We'll figure it out.
I'm just the guy that talks here. Actually, before we move on, the next tool, this is probably the last tool in my box, is the cleaver, aka the saw.
The saw! Yep.
This is not essential unless you want to convert, like Michelle's doing to the dragon. That helpless dragon is getting chopped off. It's exactly how you use it for anything. It's to saw off your miniatures off, you know.
Yeah, but it's got very fine teeth, so you don't want to use like a wood saw for doing this stuff.
Yeah. There's not much that we can show you, Miss, on what you should do with it, because it's a saw. You cut off joints so you can reposition them.
Would you demonstrate first in your hand, Mario?
Demonstrate your... Okay, here. I'm actually cutting the safety thing.
It's actually quite sharp, so you will cut yourself.
Yes. Okay, let's move. Any questions or recommendations from the audience? Anything from the chat?
It'll probably be a minute before.
Yes, remember, there is lag, Mario.
Nope. Okay, let's get on with the next segment.
There's lag. Hold on. Then catch up.
Wait, there's a lag on the video. That's why they're probably not answering. Yes.
Yes.
Ah, yes. Stop it.
Catherine has a great idea that she talked about on her show earlier for cleaning off your miniatures called Dawn Power Dissolver.
Ah, yes.
From what she said, that she just sprays a Ziploc bag with it and then put whatever model she wants to clean inside, give that a good spray as well. 20 minutes. If you can rub the plastic and whatever's on the miniature off then. If not, flip the miniature and do it for another 20. She's even left resin models overnight and it hasn't affected them at all. So that would be a good alternative for some people who can get like purple power.
Yeah, purple power is good too. I usually use just simple green and Dawn to clean off my model or to strip paint off of. Are we good to go to the next segment?
Sure.
So
someone mentioned a circular hobby pipe cutter. I'm not even sure what that even looks like.
I've seen it. It looks like a plier. You put the tube inside it, and you kind of just do this, and then it cuts the pipe perfectly. Instead of, because when you use the saw, sometimes it comes off as an angle.
Yeah.
This one will come off like.
Give you a straight
yeah,
around.
Because you're actually not putting the pipe on the table. You're actually just holding it like this, and the pipe is like that.
Yeah.
And you're just doing it like this. It's a good arm exercise. All right, let's start off in the next segment, which is terminology. Mystics, you have the advantage of already knowing some of this stuff, but the newer hobbyists would probably not know what is flash, what is mode line, and then what is hairline. There's a lot of terms that you guys probably don't know if you're new to this hobby. And let's start off with flash. Mystics, what is your understanding of flash?
Well, to me, the flash is like very thin leftover resin or plastic leftover from when they actually take the models out of the mold themselves. Okay.
And Michelle, according to your experience, is he explaining that correctly?
Yeah. It's not only. Let's see. I don't have a really good example. There's some kind of flash there, but it's not actually part of the mini. It's just on the sprue. But it's really usually very thin. You can also get flash, or I'm not sure if that's the technical term for the on metal models, for the little bits of
the strings of metal that's coming out.
Yeah, for the air escapes in the molding process.
Yeah.
So that's what those kind of look like.
Yeah, because if you're new to the hobby and then you pull out your sprue, you pull out your metals, it does not look exactly like how it is on the box art because there's a lot of parts. If you don't know, oh, by the way, you are correct. What flash is, but the process of molding is you have two halves of the mold, and then it's covered like this, and over time, you never get a perfect one. So sometimes you add like too much material in it, so it would spread out onto the side of the molds, which is why you have mold lines and flashes because of the excess, and you would have to remove it. Flashes are not as annoying as mold lines, but flash is usually more apparent in plastic and resin models.
It's fairly easy to remove too.
Yeah,
can use. If you're not familiar with how the model is supposed to look, it can be a little confusing. You don't just tell in highly detailed areas what is flash and what is detail.
Yeah, it could be like a very thin piece of like a wing, like the bottom part of the wing or something, and then you suddenly, accidentally, you actually chop it off. So flash is not the hardest part that you have to remove. You can use the flash remover that I had earlier, like this one over here, or you can use the X-Acto blade, but when you're using the X-Acto, be careful because you can create like an odd, if you don't do it right, according to the shape, you might have like an indentation that you have to fill up with green stuff later on.
All right, so here's a good example. This is a very teeny tiny axe. Sorry, my fingers are dirty. I don't know what. Kind of gross. Okay. So the back of the axe, so you can see at the front of the axe there's a bit of flash there. But the back of the axe, I'm not sure if that's flash or if that's actually supposed to be there. So it's one kind of example of...
The best thing to figure out if things are flash or not, just look at the box art. If they have a 3D picture of certain things, it looks better. Like especially models like that has robes and they're undead, so they have like tattered robes. Some parts don't need to be there, some parts do, and then when you do make an accident, make a boo-boo, you might have to cover it up. But flashes is really easy to actually remove. Let's get on with the mold lines. So, Miss, what is your understanding of mold lines?
As mold lines, from what I understand, is very similar to flash, but not as pronounced. Is like, again, it's with the injection molding or the pressure molding. It's just the excess material left over.
Yep. Michelle, do you have any examples of mold lines?
Sure. Here is a mini I painted a long time ago, and I didn't know to remove mold lines. So you can see on the gun barrel, it's too bright. On the gun barrel, should focus. Sorry, I wish my other camera was working right now.
Usually it's on top of the forehead, or whenever like it's a one whole model. Usually in the middle, like over here in the creases, and the arm over here or on the legs, they would have lines like that, and those are mold lines.
Yeah, sorry, this isn't working.
It's very apparent, especially in the GW starter box sets.
Yep. You'll see mold lines basically on the plane of the sprue.
Yeah, and that's it's part of the injection mold kind of thing, so you can't really get away from it. And we usually use X-Acto knives, metal files, or sandpaper or anything to remove it. One thing that you have to be careful about is actually don't remove details off of it, which brings us to the next topic where I talk about it's about hairlines, which is mold lines that's actually on the head where there's hair, because there's going to be details over there that you might want to try to remove, um, but you're too afraid because you might remove details. How do you usually go over that, Michelle?
Very carefully. No, I usually, let's see, if it was over the back of fingers, fingers are tough too, because a lot of times
Yeah.
it's over fingers. So it's the same kind of process. Basically, with your X-Acto knife, cut in on both sides to try and remove it. But that's just what I do. I don't know if there's a right way or not.
Well, in miniatures, the good thing is there's no right way to do any one particular thing. You can do anything as long as the final product has no mold lines. That's you did your job. Have you experienced any particular mold lines that's really horrible, Miss?
Not really. But most of the models that I have are like very smooth surfaces. 'Cause I have the Dark Debts and I have Necron, so it's a lot of the mold
Flat
lines that I
areas.
have are very easy to get to.
Yeah. Well, speaking of,
Actually, hold on,
let's-
Mario.
what's up?
Isabel and Simon Oz both have comments on what mold lines are.
Okay.
Isabel says mold lines is where the halves of the mold fit together. Sometimes the fit isn't as good as it should be. Then Simon Oz goes on to add molds deteriorate over time, which causes them to shrink. So that's where the mold line end up coming from.
Yeah, when the molds are getting older and older, so it doesn't fit perfectly anymore. Now, speaking of mold lines, sometimes in a very rare occasions, you might get like the first batch of miniatures that doesn't have mold lines. I actually recently got a shipment from Spud Tait. It's a shipment of Kensei miniatures. They have no flashes and no mold lines. These are really awesome models if you're looking into some kind of historical slash fantasy, I would say, and it doesn't seem to have any mold lines, and I'm very happy to receive them, because it's once in a blue moon you find a company that actually have some miniatures when they ship out. There's no mold lines, no flashes, and I love that. So give a shout out to Kensei Miniatures. Um, Michelle, have you experienced any of that, or since you've been buying like a lot of GW stuff, did you get any models without a mold line?
You have your occasional. I think it even depends. Like on the same sprue, you can have bits that have lots of mold lines and bits that don't. But yeah, sometimes you get lucky and there's really not too much work you have to do. This one actually is pretty good. This is the Lore Master of Hoth with the.
I must say that the plastic GW ones are a lot better than the Finecast.
Yeah, they're getting pretty good. I have a bunch of old stuff that is pretty terrible.
Mhm.
It's like
Even Forge
every
World.
single hand has mold lines on it. It's very annoying.
Oh, like even the almighty Forge World has mold lines and flashes, so you can't get away with it. It's one part of the hobby that you just have to like tough it out and learn how to remove it, because if you want to become a better hobbyist, then you got to learn how to do it.
Yeah, and it's important to do because every step of the way, if you notice a mold line that you've missed before, it's worth it to just scrape off the paint and clean it up, because it's going to be incredibly noticeable when you finish. I do that a lot after I prime. If I see a mold line, I'll just scrape off the primer and get rid of that mold line. So it's never too late to get off the mold line, unless
Yes.
you're like just about to enter it into your competition.
Which actually going to be the last section today about boo-boos and cover-ups and whichever that you want to, if you want to fix your models. But let's get on to our next topic, which is the whole entire assembly. Yesterday on the dry run, we actually talked about this for about half an hour, but let's just cut it a little bit shorter. Michelle, usually when you are assembling your models, what are the preparations that you need to make sure that your assembly is like working faster? Not only that, do you usually cut everything off of the sprue and then assemble all at once, or do you do one by one?
I'm really slow, so I'll put that out there. I usually go model by model. If it's a big, army box or something, I will, pick out the pieces for a single mini, cut those out, remove the sprues, or remove the sprues or remove the mold lines on the sprue, so it's easier to hold, and then assemble that one guy. That's probably the most slow way to do it. Another way that I've done it is cut out and clean all your dudes and put the bits in piles for each model. So, one arm goes here, one arm goes here, one arm goes there.
So you put them
have
into
them all laid out.
piles, so you know where to go, right?
Yeah, so then you don't have to spend so much time opening and re-unclogging your glue. So if you have a good chunk of time, that's a good way to do it. But I usually, have a half an hour here and there that I can do this stuff. So the single mini at a time works well for me.
And you usually spread it out to as many days that you need to assemble, or do you do it all in one day?
It takes as long as it takes, and I only have so much free time, so yeah.
That's where you and me are different, because I hate unfinished stuff. I don't play with unpainted models usually on the board unless I really have to. Assembling, and for me, actually, I assemble the way that you do, like one by one, but I don't like spreading it over days, because I don't know. This is one of my OCD that I don't like. Like whenever I'm assembling the whole entire thing for that day, but I don't usually paint on the same day. Or when I actually got the products, I don't paint or assemble on that same day. As soon as I open the box, I usually just look at it for like 30 minutes or like an hour. Just make sure that I know what I'm doing. I'm planning out the time and everything to see where the mold lines are, where I have to remove it, prepare the right tools for it. And then when I do assemble it, I do it exactly your style. I do one model at a time. I pick which parts that I want, which is a good thing that GW is actually doing that whole multi-part thing, because you can pretty much mix and match. But Mystics, I understand you have some Dark Death models, and they are set up, the sprue is set up differently because they actually have labels saying A1, A2, A3, right?
Yeah, with the way Dark Death is set up, with the GW, they'll usually give you an instruction manual. Say, okay, this part goes here, this part goes there. But with the sprues, for the sprue tree from Dark Deaths, you'll get these little pieces. Get this off here. Like this. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's so small. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to see it.
Yeah, it's hard to focus. But yeah, they have pieces that are so small that you don't even think that it's an actual part of the model. You might actually think that's just a sprue piece.
Yeah, like here are the arms.
Yeah, before, because those are the new Malifaux plastics. Yeah. They actually label it A1, A2, A3. So all the one that's in the group A will actually form a model. But in GW's case, they do have instruction booklets, which is good. Malifaux, I mean, Weird Miniatures actually started doing that now. Also, in parts of assembly, Miss, what was the hardest part when you see that sprue? What was the hardest part that when you see it? Are you like confused on where to go, or?
Coming from this is my second build from my GW set, was I wasn't sure of the whole A1 A2 system at first, but once I got into it, I started figuring out, okay, now this set goes here, this set goes there, and so it got a lot simpler.
a lot of the models are actually pretty common sense. You know, you see a left arm, the thumb is like this. Don't put it on your right because it's gonna look weird. But then once it gets to like fantasy models where it's like a chaos piece, where you see tongues sticking out of their bodies or spikes coming out of everywhere, I think an instruction booklet is good on that. Michelle, do you actually use the instruction booklet a lot to figure out where things goes?
Most of my stuff has not come with instructions, but the last few models that I've gotten have, like the Sisters of Avalon came with an instruction because you can make two different models, and the
Hmm.
Phoenix has. But when I got the Dryads, I don't remember them having instructions, and I was actually just pulling up. Mini Girl had mentioned to arrange your bits in a tin, and I have something like this,
Yes.
something like this.
Yeah.
Um,
And you can find them in like dollar stores usually.
and actually, this is pretty cool because as I was cutting out bits, if I didn't have any glue at the time, I was just putting all the bits for one model in each bin and then building them up as I had time. So you can stay organized that way. Yeah, because it can get kind of confusing if you have bits all over the place.
Yeah, I did that with my Necron Warriors. Is I knew that all the parts were pretty much identical, so I cut them all off the sprue tree at once. One compartment had the torso fronts, another compartment had the torso backs, one compartment had the legs, had the head, and that's just the way I built them. Is so I could go in, build a whole bunch of torsos at once while that was drying, assemble the guns, and then once those dried, I could go ahead and start putting the models together.
Yeah.
The one thing you want to, if you clean up your mold lines as you cut things out, you can waste a lot of time cleaning up mold lines on bits you're never going to use. Like, I have a million Dryad bits from a box of 12 Dryads that I cleaned all the mold lines off of because I didn't know any better because I cut all the pieces off beforehand. And those took forever. And they're really pokey, too.
Well, the next time that you're gonna be using them, you don't need to clean them anymore.
That's true, but I don't know why I would. I mean,
Um,
build up scratch Dryads.
let's check out. Well, speaking of bits, do you always want to keep your bits at all time because you never know what you're gonna use them next, right?
Yeah, I even have old sprues just because they're useful for mixing paint or just trying stuff out
Or
on.
a frame of a building. You can.
Yeah, you can use them for lots of stuff.
I think your cat is hungry.
Cat approves.
Yeah, he's probably hungry.
um. So with GW model, I would recommend that you can actually do that, cutting all this, all the bits from the sprue, and then separate them, organize them the way that you feel like more comfortable with. But with some models like Malifaux plastics or some other plastics, when they don't come with instruction booklet, you don't want to chop everything off because you're gonna end up with a bunch of sprues or a bunch of bits, and you're like, okay, where does this part go?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then we are coming towards almost at the end. This is the last segment. Is boo-boos. Michelle, if you have any stories of during assembly, like boo-boos that you make during assembly.
Well, I've stabbed myself. But
She actually has that on her video, so.
yeah, that was unfortunate. Or lucky, I don't know, one of the ways. But just during the process of handling the model as you're building it, my poor eagle went through a lot of abuse. First, it's my cat rolled on it and broke off a foot. And then after I had put it on the base and pinned it to the rocks, it fell off my desk and broke. And then at Adepticon, as it was being put into the case, the other foot broke.
But it didn't stop it from winning a crystal brush.
You just have to be, okay, is this fixable? I can handle this.
I think the biggest
As Dad
advice.
said yesterday, you can basically fix just about anything. It may just take more effort, as long as you don't throw it in a blender, or your cat eats it. Which
I think the biggest mistake, I mean, the advice, like if you make a boo-boo, is to calm down, don't panic, look for solutions, because it's always fixable. Especially in Michelle's story here, even mistakes can be fixed, and you can still win competitions as long as the mistakes are covered, right?
hmm
And then another boo-boo would be self-injuring, because you got to be careful. This is the part of the whole show that you have to be that we teach you to be careful of what the tools that you're going to be needing and everything else. Especially even super glue is dangerous. If you've been super gluing for too long, the fume will get to your eyes and it will hurt.
A tip I forgot to mention: when you're super gluing, it's really easy to glue your fingers together.
Yes.
What you can do is dip your fingers in water before you hold the piece together, and it's still tacky, but it's not going to instant fuse your fingers together.
Because I forgot who it was, but I think was it me? No, somebody super glued their finger to their face.
It's probably you.
It sounds like something that I would do, but
Well, if you're like,
Miss, did you like have any boo-boo while you're assembling your first models? Because your first model, usually you would probably make a lot of mistakes.
Physical boo-boos, yes. Like assembling boo-boos, not quite so much. Like I haven't done anything wrong yet. I have manufacturer boo-boos I fixed, but like the only boo-boo I have is when I prime something and it didn't turn out right. And I learned the hard way that fingernail polish remover can eat away at plastic models.
Yes, Spud actually has a video on that, and Lazy Pug has a video of actually dipping the model entirely in acetone nail remover, and it just melts away.
Well, this was actually acetone-free remover from Rite Aid, and it still did the same thing.
I think you're only supposed to leave it in there for like 10 minutes.
It was in there for 5, and I had to actually order bits for the
Oh
this is it here
no.
actually.
So blenders and acetone and nail polish remover.
Rite Aid,
A couple of
the Rite Aid
comments.
brand one.
Couple of comments regarding the water.
Yes.
Derek Oz is actually saying hand lotion is much better than water. Put hand lotion on before you do your assembly work, and you won't get stuck at all. And Mini Girl actually super glued fur to her fingers while doing a tutorial on camera.
I would like to say, just for Clayton Tait, boo boo.
Yes, boo boo.
Boo boo. This is for you, Clayton.
But a couple of stories that I wanted to share that regarding mistakes is going to lead up into how to cover those mistakes. Let me get my episode guide. Okay, so one story that I had was I had to assemble Isabella von Karsten, and the leg is kind of like she had both of her heels going like this, and her heels are already very tiny. And then you see models sometimes if you buy metal models, they have a bar going like this from the mold to hold it. And I cut it off, and I cut off the tip of her toe. So her parts of her toe are missing, and I have to pin that as well. So what I had to do was I had to green stuff the toe, and I got to make sure that it completely dries off, and then pin it carefully, and then place it on the base. That is probably one of the hardest ones that I have. So make sure before you cut any of your models, make sure that when you see something starting to bend, especially in metal models, see what part is bending, and make sure that you don't cut off certain parts of your model, because cleaning it up or fixing it later is harder than actually doing it properly the first time. And then a second story that I wanted to share is my Orc Shaman model actually has 6 toes. And none of the judge actually saw that because I covered it up with grass tuff. So as soon as
Did it come with 6 toes?
It's one of the, it's not a manufacturer fault. It was one of a flash that kind of looked like a toe. So it's not. I can't even call it a mold line or a flash because it kind of looked like a toe, but it's not the sculptor's fault. It
It's a
was because the
toe.
mold is old, and they probably have leftover stuff. And I did not see it um, when I actually finished painting it, and I saw it, and I'm like, as soon as it's done, I'm like, oh boy, he has 6 toes. What am I gonna do? So what I did was I actually put a grass tuft next to the toe and covered it, and it looked like he was just standing next to some kind of bush. So there's always a lot of ways, mystics, especially with your Hungering Darkness, not the Hungering Darkness, the other guy that has Hungering Darkness on top of him. His heels are like this. Yeah. So there's no way to pin him straight. So you're always gonna see that pin. You can do like you can put sand on it. You can sculpt some kind of smoke coming out of it, or you can cover it with grass tuft, or you can actually put him like on the edge of your base or cork or whatever. Les is probably not gonna like cork, but yeah. Uh,
Oh, we have another guest. What is Kitty's name?
This is Odin.
Odin
He's
and
the one pictured in the lower third. Or wait, is it on that side? I'm not sure.
On this side.
That doesn't help.
Audience, meet Odin. Odin, audience.
Yes, this is the kitty that destroyed or broke the foot off the eagle.
no kitty.
Anyways,
Bad
I
kitty.
find sword masters without swords and spearmen without spears, and yeah, he's the one. Oh yes, and yeah.
Isabel actually has a name for that method that I use. It's called the grass camouflage method, where you actually hide your mistakes on the foot with
Strategic
the
basing.
strategic basing, yes. Or you put rocks over it. So there's a lot of ways to cover your mistakes. So first things first. Oh shit, sorry. First things first is don't panic whenever you make a mistake, unless you cut your fingers. Then I'm really bad with blood. I can't see my own blood. I would probably faint, and if I stab myself, I'll probably start jump and whatever. But you'll make more mess that way. So try to analyze the problem first, like any other like any problem. If you make a mistake, just calm down first, and then find the solutions. There's always answers on forums. Google it, or if you're in Google Hangouts, you can always ask any of us. And before we go, Michelle, do you have any other last-minute tips for mystics?
Don't be afraid to try new things, even on show pieces.
It seems like that is your attitude towards miniature, isn't it? Like you're gung ho, like I'm gonna chop this dragon and convert him.
Yeah, I mean, that eagle is the first eagle I've ever painted, so there we go. I mean, I usually just paint one bit until I figure out the process to make it work and be the color that I want, and then I go over the rest. I hate batch painting, actually. I hate batch painting.
Yes.
But for assembly, yeah, don't be afraid to try new things. It was terrifying to chop up this dragon, but it was fun. And it should look cool if I don't destroy it.
Yes.
But it's alright.
For me, I usually approach it a little different because I am a little bit more budget conscious on certain things, and adding that into my OCD of having everything kind of the way I want it to be. So I try to be a little bit more careful. So sometimes I don't dare, I guess, to go outside of the box to chop off certain things. I do some conversions before, but again, if you have the time and money to do it, do it. Conversions are probably one of the best way to get your pieces, your crystal brush entries, to get noticed by the judges, because oh wait, I've seen this model, but I haven't actually seen this model. What is this? On top of that, using color choices and which we're gonna cover later on. So Michelle, thank you for the tip, and we are actually going on to the last part where we actually. Next episode, we are not a weekly show. It depends on the guests. Michelle had something to do last week, so we couldn't do it last week. But it was very, very awesome to have you here and you spending time and sharing your ideas with us. Also, thank you for all of the audience. Thank you for the audience who's actually staying with us, even though we were about 40 minutes late. I'm sorry, guys. It
It's
was.
Mario's fault.
No.
Thank you for Clayton to actually create another pony for us, and for all the logos. Thank you, Mystics. I'm sorry.
Michelle, you actually have a question from Mini Girl. Do you wet blend or dry brush?
I actually do, or have been doing mostly layering, and to get the I only really wet blended on big surfaces like the banner here, but it's a process that I don't really like too much. I stick with layering mostly, but I've been playing with something that is kind of, I'm not sure if anyone's ever done this, probably, but basically getting all the different colors you want on your brush. So you load up your brush first with the lightest color, then the middle color, and then just at the very tip do the darker color, and then kind of smear it on. It's kind of work.
It's like wet blending, but on the brush, not on the model.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to call that, but I would probably try that out on a model.
Yeah,
Cool.
I want to try it more. The sea guard that I've been painting are really small to try that on, and the eagle mostly is layering.
Okay.
You know, this is a little off topic here for the show.
Yeah.
But Mara, why don't you show everybody your ogre that you worked with earlier today from Catherine's earlier show for us?
Speaking of blending stuff, this is what I did today during her live show. This is the skin. Let me show you the skin that I usually do and tell you the difference, okay? This is the skin that I usually do. Hopefully you guys can see it. This is my type of layering. That's the color choices that I have, usually. This is the ogre that I did today.
Nice.
It's almost perfect blending by using pigments. I jokingly say this is like some kind of shamanistic magic that she's doing because no one else is really doing it, or maybe the more experienced miniature painters use this. But I just discovered this today, and I actually get to try it. I was so happy. I was the only one that actually had a model out and everything prepared before the show. Like Jed said, I'm the Asian guy that sits in front of class.
Mario got his Asian card back today.
Yes, but the result from blending it with pigments, it was just all pigment. It looks absolutely stunning. So props to Kat, and if you guys haven't seen the show, she has it on her channel, which we're going to put it under the description later, right, Miss?
Yes, we will actually be nice and link her show to ours this one time. Because we are nice like that here.
But anyways, this is the end of the show, guys. Next episode, not next week. We might have it next week or the next week. Is actually David Pease is going to be our guest. He is going to teach, or me and David is going to teach Mystics on basing or whatever problems you have with basing. So let's look forward for Cork. And it's always going to be an hour show. Again, this show is definitely targeted towards newer hobbyists. If you're already an expert, or if you've been in the hobby for a long time, most of this stuff is probably just a repeat. But it's always good to have you guys to hang out with us over here. And again, this is Sunshine and Moonbeam, Journey to Crystal Rush 2014. This is Mars.
This is Mystics.
Voices.
Have fun, guys. See you next time.
See you next time, everyone.